Welcome to Unearthly Upstate. I'm Mari.
And I am Matthew.
And today, because it's Thanksgiving week, we are going to talk about food again.
Yes, another food-related episode.
This one was planned.
Yes.
Sort of.
Yeah, we had this one in the works for a little while.
We had a different Thanksgiving-themed one planned, but as we went through the research for that one, we realized there were some things we didn't want to talk about. So we decided, well, what other food? What when there wasn't even food, it was like, what can we do that, might come up on Thanksgiving? What? Mm-hmm. And then I remembered, everyone loves Jell-O.
Especially the lime Jell-O mold with the mini marshmallows and the shredded carrot.
Mine was the raspberry Jell-O mold with the mandarin oranges.
Oh, yes. But no, my favorite Jell-O is the one where you mix it up with Cool Whip.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those parfaits. Yeah.
And then there's delicious. Your boozy one that's not Jell-O shots that you make when you take the Jell-O and you grind it up with the handheld blender and mix it with wine. Yeah, that's kind of
that's good. Yeah.
That's a very unique flavor.
If you take the white grape Jell-O or any of the fruit, many fruit flavors for Jell-O, any of those, they mix appropriately with the corresponding wine, whether it's white or it's red,
Right.
Of course, the berry wines go better with the red, and the more grape flavored ones, they go better with the white wines.
Yeah,
I can pass that along.
So anyway, and I want to apologize. We don't have a real studio, so you can pick up outdoor sounds. So just please forgive us.
Here's a trick: you use the wine in place of the water.
Right. So
it's chilled white wine.
Anyway, well, why are we talking about Jell-O? What the heck does this have to do with New York? Well, out between Buffalo and Rochester, there's a little town called Leroy. And in Leroy, there's a little museum. It's right next to the Leroy House, which is like the historic museum. And it is the history of Jell-O gelatin that's celebrated there. And why? Well, we talked about Knox gelatin in our first season.
Well, without Knox gelatin, we wouldn't have Jell-O.
Right. Knox, came up with a patent way to break down and dry the gelatin. Should we go over how gelatin is made real quick?
Horse hooves.
It's the connective tissue of animals, and it's interesting because where Knox gelatin was developed, Tannersville and Gloversville, there were a lot of tanneries in Glover, a lot of places that used hides, and they were just basically using the same material that was coming through to make their gelatin. In Leroy, same thing happened. There was a lot of tanneries around there. Guess what? That you had a nice supply of the items to make the gelatin. In the past, it was you would boil down the bones and all that and get that jelly to come out. If anybody's made stock, like homemade stock, and you use really good soup bones for it, and you had like chicken stock, you threw the skins in there and everything. When you strain it out and then let that sit, well, you get the fat that rises to the top. Get rid of that. But you'll notice it's not liquid anymore. It's a Jell-O. It's
all that connective tissue and all that rendered down.
Right.
I guess,
And so that's basically where gelatin comes from. Now there are vegan versions of gelatin. It's made from seaweed.
You can find
So
similar materials in the plant world.
But we're not talking about that gelatin. We're talking
about the straight up
Jell-O. So out in Leroy, this gentleman, producer Lloyd's on my lap for this whole thing.
Yes, and we just recently, I want to tell our listening audience about our recent acquisition. Lord Percival is his name. And he's our recent acquisition to our core of producers.
Yes. And you definitely will hear him. Producer Lloyd is a Siamese, but he barely meows.
Which is very odd for a Siamese.
Which is odd for Siamese. But we don't know exactly what producer Percival is, but he meows.
He's kind of an amalgam.
Yeah, he's an interesting.
He's got this wide head with a small face.
And small butt.
And these little ears. He's so cute. And he's very vocal when he needs something.
I'm going to go back. I just found a recipe for the original gelatin. And it was, take out great bones of 4 calves' feet and put in the feet into a pot with 10 quarts of water, 3 ounces of hartshorn, deer antler, 3 ounces of Inzingling glass. I think that's something to do with a fish. I'm not 100% sure. Nutmeg quartered, 4 blades of mace, then boil till this comes to 2 quarts and strain through a flannel bag. Let stand for 24 hours, then scrape all the fat from the top very clean, then slice it and put it into the whites of 6 eggs beaten to a froth. Boil it a little, strain it again through a flannel bag, then run the jelly into little high glasses. You may add orange flower water, or wine or sugar, and lemon if you please.
Well, now this was supposed to then just set?
Yeah. This is how you originally made gelatin.
Wow, that is really labor intensive.
Right, and then Knox came around, but his was unflavored. He came around and came up with the way...
The flavorless gelatin.
The flavorless gelatin, and his wife came up with those great recipes. I mean, we talked about how they were just very progressive. Oh, yeah. But over on the western side, then Jell-O started to come to be. So in 1845, Peter Cooper he patented a product which was set with gelatin. Okay. It didn't take off. He really didn't, he came up with the idea. Knox was coming up with his idea. In 1897, Pearl Waite, a carpenter in Leroy, was mixing up cough remedies and laxative teas in his home. And he started mixing it in with the gelatin. And he came up with a fruit-flavored gelatin. His wife, May, called it Jell-O. Now, they tried to market it themselves, and really didn't work well. They ended up selling it to a man, Orator Frank Woodward. I'm not sure if Orator is his first name or if it's a title. He just moved to Leroy in 1860. He was kind of an entrepreneur, and he was making a nest egg with miraculous power to kill lice on hens when hatching, and that became really successful. Well, he turned around and Mr. Waite was having trouble selling his idea, and he turned around and he purchased the Jell-O business from Mr. Waite, and then he started manufacturing it, and at first no one really wanted it.
Well, anyway,
there's a few things passed through. It passed hands a few times, and in 1900, Jell-O was the name first used by the Genesee Pure Food Company. And in 1902, Jell-O finally started taking off.
That's a long time for a business.
Yeah.
To develop. Meanwhile, during all these years, they're struggling.
Right.
To get the Jell-O brand out there.
Right.
And losing money year after year. What were they doing? I'm curious. What were they doing alongside of this to keep these endeavors afloat?
One guy was selling cough syrup.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean,
And so they had to do other things while they were trying to get Jell-O off the ground in order to just keep a roof over their heads.
So, like I said, over on the eastern side of New York, we had Knox Gelatin, and right then she was probably producing those cookbooks that were handing out for free, and. But it was during actually one of the competitions that Knox held that the first Jell-O salad appeared.
Okay.
Now, up to this point, this was not a new idea. Aspics, I think they're called aspics. They are a form of food, I guess. But they're usually the plain Jell-O, gelatin, and mixed in with meat. And vegetables and that. So oh gosh, I remember seeing a picture years ago. It looked absolutely disgusting to me.
Yeah.
But I don't like fish.
Imagine.
It was in a fish mold, and it was flaked salmon.
In Jell-O.
But in non-flavored Jell-O. And
non-flavored Jell-O.
You would slice and eat it. And that, that's... When it was labor intensive, it was a thing that really only rich people would do because they could just have their servants do it.
You were at least upper middle class if you had a Jell-O mold on the table.
As now you're getting this fruit flavored stuff coming, and it's quick to make. So in this one competition, and I cannot find the person who made it. I'm really, really sorry because I cannot find the name of the lady who came up with it, who won the contest. But she made a contest. It was a contest with Knox Gelatin, and she made a Jell-O salad with fruit in it, and it became a hit. And it was published in magazines, and now people were like, "This is a cool idea. And then the flavored Jell-O comes in. Oh, that just knocks them up a bunch.
Oh yes. Oh, here it is. The whole thing. You can.
I found her name.
Oh, you did?
Yes. The name of the dish was Perfection Salad, made by Mrs. John E. Cook of Newcastle, Pennsylvania. It was the Better Homes and Gardens recipe contest she won, but it was sponsored by Knox Gelatin. Yes. So, we have to thank Mrs. John E. Cook of Newcastle, Pennsylvania, for introducing generations, mainly Americans. I don't know how big these are.
It's an indelibly American.
It is definitely an American
food.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the lime Jell-O one. That just think of how many potlucks and after church dinners, and just even some restaurants you'd go to, and there'd be these Jell-O based desserts, salads. There was one that I grew up with in my high school. When I went to school, my aunt was the cook, and she made this amazing fluff that was based on gelatin and graham crackers. And when that came, it was either chocolate or strawberry, but boy, the strawberry was the best one. And when that came out, kids cleaned their plates because she had a rule in the dining hall: you could not get dessert until you cleaned your plate.
Oh yeah.
How can you eat your pudding if you don't eat your meat type thing? And if she had those out, those plates were cleaned because she let you have as much dessert as you want as long as you cleaned your plate.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, or at least she did change it in a couple years after I tried something, because sometimes you'd get something, just didn't set with you. But,
absolutely, yeah. But what else can you say about Jell-O?
What else can I say about Jell-O? Well, it's no longer made in Leroy. That stopped in the 1960s.
True,
yeah. It was produced there up until the 1960s. Now it's Kraft owns it now, so I don't even know where it's produced.
A larger company.
Yeah, it's again, bought hands. But there's a nice museum there, and that museum's got the whole history of how it was produced, the history of the different flavors they've had. It wasn't
always smooth sailing for Jell-O, though.
No.
There was that accident. The Jell-O Museum.
Yeah, that happened in 2000.
Went to court.
2012. I didn't find the outcome of it. Unfortunately, somebody died there. Okay. And the unfortunate name of the man was Frank Lamont, and he was in a mobility assisted scooter, and they had, you've seen them. They're not. They're like little lifts to lift people from one floor to the other on the scooters. And something was wrong with the lift, and he fell backwards off the lift and ended up hurting himself pretty bad, and ended up in a coma. And then later passed away. And the museum got sued. The lift manufacturer got sued, and I didn't find out the outcome of what happened. Now, the museum's still there, so they weathered it pretty good, whatever the outcome was, but it did sound like it was pretty, it was a pretty horrible accident. It could probably have ended it. And I know they probably feel horrible about it, because I've seen interviews with the people that work there, and they don't seem like the type of people.
Yeah.
That, be malicious about it. They probably felt absolutely horrendous when it happened. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so I don't know the outcome of that. That was pretty sad. And otherwise, like I said, the Jell-O Museum is really kind of cute. They've got, all these different flavors of Jell-Os in there. You've got the original ones. Oh, let's see if I can remember what the original ones were. I believe cherry was introduced 5th. So I think it was lemon, strawberry. Oh, darn. I can't remember. But no, cherry was the 5th one, and lime was introduced after cherry. Darn. I can't remember. But they definitely have a lot more,
right,
things going on. A lot more flavors now. They got some really interesting ones. And I did see a video where some gentleman was in there and he's interviewing him, and he said, "What about Jell-O shots?" And the woman who was giving the tour said, "Well, that there was a recipe book there. This was their most popular recipe book, 71 Jell-O shots." Or jelly shots, because the person who wrote the book didn't get permission to use the word Jell-O. Anyway, so,
right.
In the interesting description, she said that her favorite one was, root beer schnapps, and I forget what the other one was. I feel bad now. I have to watch that video again. But root beer schnapps was the main alcohol used in that. But yeah, I mean, how many people have had Jell-O shots? I think we had Jell-O shots at one time. If anybody has ever gone to the St. Patrick's Day parade in Syracuse, it's a totally different mindset for that parade. Mm-hmm. And we ended up doing Jell-O shots with some people next to us because they made so many. They were just handing them out to people. Right. It was pretty great.
Yeah, it was a pretty great parade.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. They did show us there was some flavors you can't get anymore, like coffee flavored Jell-O. Now, I have made coffee gelatin using Knox in coffee.
It's like something you could do yourself. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, I've done it myself. They're pretty good. Coffee, if you use Knox unflavored, but then you use coffee for the boiling water, it's really good. Yeah. I've done it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. But let's talk about some interesting facts and then maybe go discuss the salads a little more. But
okay.
There's some interesting things about Jell-O. Jell-O has been involved in some famous criminal cases.
Yeah, Jell-O goes to court, eh?
Yeah, mm-hmm. We got this from an article from the Smithsonian, and interesting things. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, a Jell-O box played a role in their conviction. Now they were supposed to be meeting with a member of the spy network. And Ethel's brother, who also worked on the Manhattan Project, so they were going to meet these people to get the secrets. So the pair could signal to each other. They were each given part of the same spy ring. A Jell-O box was then cut up. Mm-hmm. So when they met, they would use the matching pieces to see it was an all clear sign. So right. It was supposedly a raspberry flavored gelatin box was used. Right. There was and unfortunately this happened in 1990 in Massachusetts. Rich Alfredo died. At first nobody was surprised. He was ruled a heart attack and he had some really bad heart problems. So nobody suspected anything, but the police, his family didn't suspect anything, but the police were a little cautious. So they called for an autopsy. And it revealed he had massive amounts of LSD in his system.
Oh, really?
It turned out his live-in girlfriend, Christina Martin, he had suffered a heart attack after Martin, his girlfriend, served him lime Jell-O was laced with a lethal dose of LSD.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. All to get his money. Yeah.
Dang.
Yep. Talking about Jell-O shots in 1992. Martin Barry Einstein was pulled over for going 55 and a 35, and he had a blood alcohol content of 0.10, so DUI, right?
Right.
Well, he testified he enjoyed, he was eating
bowls
Jell-O.
Of cherry Jell-O.
That his friend had made with vodka. What? It didn't work. That defense didn't work. So, he didn't get out.
Jello buzzed is driving while Jello buzzed is drunk driving, folks.
Yep. And then there was a nice free speech case in 1992 as well.
Yeah. University of New Hampshire.
Yep.
Yep.
Professor J. Down Silva was giving a lecture to the writing class, and he gave a description of the belly dance of Little Egypt. He said belly dancing, he says, like Jello on a plate with we'll skip what he said under the plate, but use your imagination.
Well, 9 students complained,
and he was suspended on sexual harassment charges. But then he filed suit against the university, said it violated his First Amendment rights, and there were legitimate reasons for his language choices. He was reinstated. So,
there you go.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of a graphic thing he said there, but at the same token, it was a fair description. I mean,
well, upshot is that the university never addressed the $42,000 in damages or back pay that he sought.
Right.
So, but at least he was able to keep his job, at least, honestly. Anyway, yes, Jell-O in court, fraught with court cases from the early 1950s all the way up to 2012.
Yes.
With that tragic death with the
but that had nothing to do with Jell-O. It's just that happened in the museum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I guess that we could discuss, the Jell-O salads. Now, the Jell-O salad is synonymous with so many places. And like I said, we had them at church functions. Mm-hmm. They're usually like 6 or 7 different ones.
Are you kidding me? There's pistachio green with walnuts, mushrooms, a clear lemon, yellow studded with vegetables.
Yeah. I can't even describe.
The aforementioned one with the fish in it.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, that one I never saw at a church thing. I just saw that on it was a old vintage cookbook, and it was shown like as the centerpiece of this meal, and I thought that was so disgusting. And then later, I think it was the Supersizers.
Yeah.
That show we used to watch from Britain.
Oh, yes.
Those guy, the food critic and the comedian, they would try
God,
food
yes.
in different time periods.
All those organ meats. Oh, my God.
And
surprised they both didn't wind up with, bladder stones or something.
And I think it was either the Edwardian or the Victorian one. That's exactly what they served in one of the meals. Was that fish and But I also remember an early one they did the original Jell-O with the when you boil the cow hooves and everything.
Yeah.
And it came out gray.
Well, that was because of the fat.
No, it's because of the animals. So you would get it from the animal, like that. Okay. And it wasn't purified like Knox and Jell-O did.
Right, exactly.
So.
Yeah, it wasn't clarified?
Clarified, I guess, or whatever.
Is what they call. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. But if you look at, I used to have the Knox site up. They have some great recipes in there to do basic, recipes, like aspects and things like that. Exactly. But if you just type in the word Jell-O salad, which I did before recording, so many of them come up, and the only complaint I have is a lot of them throw pineapple in there, and I find that interesting because actually citrus doesn't sit well usually with gelatin, but cooked or canned citrus does. That's why you can use mandarin oranges, and that's why you can use pineapple.
Use the canned variety.
And canned variety. You try to use fresh pineapple.
Yeah, it's going to
especially it'll actually start disintegrating. It's probably the same enzyme I get sick off when I eat it. So, but it will start to disintegrate the gelatin.
Same one. The same one that disintegrates the Jell-O was probably the one that's
the one that gets me ill. Yeah, it's not fun. But I'm just going through this list from Taste of Home, for example. I'm just swimming through here. There's a cranberry raspberry gelatin salad, and these are all in mold. So I think now they're kind of coming back, but people are sticking with the fruit ones and not so much the vegetable ones. But and you get the pretty ones where they layer them, So the red, white, and blue salad is a good example of that. But even some of them that are fruit kind of make me go, ew. The sangria gelatin ring. It's pretty. I mean, it's got all these fruits in there and everything.
It sounds delicious.
It sounds delicious, but, you think it looked prettier, but I think they use lime Jell-O, and then they put grapes in there, and that's where I lose it. I don't like grapes in my gelatin. No, I do not. So...
No kidding.
Bavarian, that's when you put dairy product into your gelatin. When I did the coffee one with the Knox, I used cream. I used heavy cream in it as well. It's really good. I should make that up again.
It does sound good.
It is really good.
And when it's done right, Jell-O is really a good dessert.
It is.
But it's really easy to get it wrong.
Oh, I know.
One of those things.
But I don't think it has the, coming into Thanksgiving now, is it, that so many people are like, they online, oh, look at these weird desserts they used to serve in the 70s and, 60s. Oh, these molded salads and that. I think they're coming back.
Yeah.
Actually, because of that. People are like, oh, look at these weird things. Why would you put hot dogs in gelatin? That was a thing. That is literally a thing. Yeah, I've seen that.
You see, I could see if you wanted to do one of those Bavarian-style Jell-Os and mixing deviled ham along with it.
Oh, yeah.
Might work, because the ham has been processed. The fat in the ham has been processed to the point where, it is kind of like Jell-O.
Right.
But if you do, the worst thing they use Jell-O in, head cheese.
Oh, yeah.
That is terrible. Oh. When you used to, decades ago, when the supermarkets would offer this thing called head cheese, and it was right next to the bologna.
Right.
And it was basically just scraps from the pig. And it was literally head cheese.
Right.
All of the meat.
So it's a type of aspect.
Exactly. Yeah, it is, but in slices.
Right.
And I don't know which family member liked that stuff, but it always found its way home somehow. Oh. I thought I found an eyeball.
Oh God!
It was just a slice.
Yeah.
And it still had the cornea and the lens.
Oh my God!
It was just like looking back at me. I'm like, no. And I took one look at it. I asked, "What is this?" Mom said, "Oh yeah, that's right." It was my mom said it was head cheese. That's what that is. And I'm like, "Oh my God, what's it made of?" She said, "Well, it's made of the cow's head."
Yeah.
Quite literally.
Well, I was just looking up the meat ones, and actually, it was a way to preserve meat. In the past, you'd let it boil it in the gelatin, probably like for head cheese, and that's how it preserved. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting meat ones, especially from other countries as well. The fish one was mentioned as well.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, here's head cheese. Aha. Description of head cheese. Oh, yeah, that's very lovely.
There's not enough mustard on earth to make that head cheese. Really. Oh my God.
Now, there's one in Denmark that sounds good. It's made from meat juices, gelatin, and sometimes mushrooms. Now, that sounds good, actually. I mean, if you can get across the texture thing, that's the other thing. It's a texture thing. But yeah, head cheese is a meat jelly made with the head of a calf or a pig. Usually served at room temperature.
Yeah. That reminds me of some of the disgusting foods that some of my relatives like to eat. Like, I've told you about my grandpa Manette and his love for toasted Limburger cheese. He'd make a grilled cheese sandwich out of the stinkiest Limburger cheese possible, and that funk would just spread out all over the whole house. Ugh.
Yeah, Limburger is a cheese. I love cheese. I try all different types of cheese. It took me a while to get used to blue cheese, but Limburger's one. I've tried it, I think, 3 times in my life, and the best advice I ever got was don't breathe in through your nose.
I couldn't get past the smell.
Yeah, the smell.
And I love sharp cheese.
Yeah, and
this is the...
But I tried that once, and I did mute the smell. And it was okay. It tasted okay, but the smell is, the best stuff. And now put the Limburger in with aspic. Yeah.
Oh, exactly, yeah. Get a really big, thick hunk of Limburger cheese, slather that onto your head cheese sandwich.
Well, I'm just looking at this. I just found these molded cheese pictures. Molded salad pictures from like the 60s and 50s. And there's one that's a complete salad. Oh, it's got radishes and peppers and peas and onions and like pearl onions in there. And it's served with deviled eggs and chunks of cheese. Do you want that on our cheese tray for Thanksgiving?
That's the works mold.
Yeah. But then right underneath it is this one's got tomatoes and blueberries? I'm not sure. I can't make it up. It's blueberries. And it's a lime Jell-O with shrimp.
Just the texture. I'd never be able to even get past my first bite.
Oh, I know.
Just a bite to be polite. And then, move on to the pies.
Well, we should go back. Oh, there's that fish one. I found it. Yeah, that's just... Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well, it's all because those early Americans, they're the Americans in the colonies. They wanted to, appear elite and adapted many European customs.
Yeah,
to their own taste, and gelatin dishes were considered a delicacy in New York high society.
And at the beginning of advertising with Jell-O, they didn't advertise it to children. I mean, now almost all the advertisements to Jell-O. If you go onto the Kraft website, look at Jell-O and the products, a lot of it's geared to kids now. Yeah. And they have like this, like an arts thing or something now, where you're making jigglers, or you remember what jigglers are, right?
Yes, definitely.
It's the very stiff Jell-O that you could eat with your fingers, but now you make them into shapes, and the kids can play with them before they eat them and whatever. Exactly. I don't know what's wrong with playing just with the square jiggler myself, but anyway.
Yeah, what's wrong with square jigglers?
But they didn't advertise to kids until like into the 70s. That's when they started advertising towards kids. Before it was like
all and then came the snack packs.
Well, I'm going back to the original point there you made about how it was kind of highbrow. Mm-hmm. All their advertisements would show like, here's your maid with your Jell-O salad, or here's your maid bringing out your parfaits. Aren't we fancy?
The people enjoying the Jell-O were always seen as being served.
Yes,
the Jell-O somehow,
right?
By a member of staff.
So these were again, they were trying to do the status on it, and then they started moving to the kids. Mm-hmm. When molded salad started getting out of favor, because people were like, well, that's not a salad.
Well, they started to sell the Jell-O packets then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The ready-made Jell-O. You didn't have to go through all that.
Right, when Jell-O and Knox started selling theirs. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. But, we are kind of avoiding one subject, and I will bring this up. Has the Jell-O Museum received any backlash because of Crosby?
Oh, I wasn't going to mention that. But
I am because
I forgot all about it.
They never did. They never did. They did have, because he was the spokesman for so long. He did visit once, and then they put his name on this. There's a little brick walkway between the Jell-O Museum and the Leroy house, and his name was there. But when everything happened, they removed it. But no one's ever called or asked the museum about it. No one's ever,
But imagine if that happened.
Yeah, but people have been good, because I think people understand the museum's there about the history of Jell-O. They're not even, Kraft doesn't even supply them with the Jell-O they sell there. They have nothing to do with the corporation that makes it. But because that's where Jell-O started, that's why they had that museum. Yeah. And I think that's great that they have the museum there so you can see the history of this dessert, because really,
Yeah,
once you start looking,
it is indelibly American.
It is. It is, and I'm sure a lot of people on Thanksgiving Day this week are going to be having some sort of gelatin.
Some kind of Jell-O.
You know, maybe it'll be Jell-O shots after the kids are gone to sleep, or maybe it'll be, you know, ambrosia salad. There you go. That's a good one. Or maybe it'll be somebody got really fancy and made a parfait with, you know, with strawberry and raspberry and grape. You know, there's so many things you could make, or just the jigglers. Why not? You know. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the jigglers were my favorite when our kids were little. I loved making those, you know, because they were all over the floor usually, but they were fun to make. Well, how many people? Okay, how many people? That's how they have their cranberries. They have it in a Jell-O. You know, think about it. How many people we have? I'm not talking about the cranberry sauce that comes out of a can. Like, no, I'm not talking about that gelled stuff. I like it.
We get that every year, along with the cake that winds up being a doorstop.
We are not getting it this year, but I do like it. I didn't buy cranberries this year because last year when we bought cranberries, I had them. I didn't use them up until June, so I was like, I'm not going to do that this year. But there is a cranberry gelatin salad that's very good that I'm sure a lot of people have on their Thanksgiving. Yeah. Plates. Yeah, in fact, as I'm looking through these recipes, I found one I got to make.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, which one is it?
Oh, I'm looking at the applesauce gelatin.
Oh, okay.
But I have to get some cinnamon red hot candies.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how's that working?
You melt them in the boiling water.
Okay.
And that's what you add to the gelatin.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's
and then you mix in the applesauce and then let it.
You see, folks, that's what makes or breaks your Jell-O mold, or your parfait, or your salad, or whatever it is you're trying to make, is how you incorporate the ingredients into the Jell-O.
Right.
Can make or break how that sets. Because I've seen it happen many times. When people are trying to innovate, and they go lift that mold off, and it loses all cohesion.
Oh, yeah.
It just slides all over the table. And, there's tears before bedtime.
Well, they do have a great...
Avoid it, folks.
They do have a great collection of Jell-O molds. Speaking of Jell-O molds, there's a great collection of Jell-O molds in that museum. And a few I recognize from, growing up and going to other people's kitchens. There always seemed to be a Jell-O mold hung up in the kitchen. Usually it was made of copper. Usually shaped like a fish for some reason. Or you get the circle, the fancy. But ours at home was the cheap Tupperware one. That was kind of looked like a bundt cake. But it was a Tupperware mold. That's what we used.
We just use an ordinary bundt cake mold with some resist.
Yeah.
And then pour it in there, chill it, and then out it comes.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have any special, although I do remember one time when Mom wound up with an honest-to-goodness ring mold for the Jell-O, and it had that, it was like Tupperware.
Oh, here's one I've always wanted to make, and I never had the patience to make it. It's called the stained glass cake, and you make jigglers, basically. You make very stiff Jell-O, and you cut them up into strips or cubes, and then you mix them into like this cream cheese based cake, and it's a chilled dessert. I've always wanted to try it. I just don't have the patience to make it. So somebody else make that for me, please.
Zero patience.
I just happened to be scrolling, and I was like, oh, there it is. And the one I'm scrolling through now has a nice collection of savory and sweet. Like, they had a ranch dressing aspect.
Oh. Okay.
Right next to the spiced coconut cherry mold, so...
Well, you've got all kinds of collectibles, too.
Oh, yeah.
Including spoons, toys, recipe books, other memorabilia. Stickers, magnets.
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff, yeah.
All kinds of stuff. Jell-O, they've got their own clothing line, they kind
of... I don't know if they have...
I don't know. Do they have their own tennis shoes?
Yeah.
I got no idea. And they also do a lot of sponsoring too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they do have a gift shop that offers T-shirts, sweatshirts, magnets, molds.
Oh yeah, it's definitely on our list. I list to go visit one of these days. I mean, it's not that far. It's just a little bit past Rochester, but definitely want to go. I've heard some really good things about it. Saw some great videos about it. It's fairly cheap. I mean, if you go through Leroy and they're open, swing by. I mean, everyone loves Jell-O. Come on. You know? And it's funny, as I was researching this, I was thinking of all the jingles, like, there's always room for Jell-O, and, of course, Jello.
Right.
But do you remember, watch it wiggle? Wait, I'm a horrible singer. Do you remember that one?
Oh, they
Jell-O,
so
man,
many
gelatin.
jingles.
Yeah.
I know.
That kind of reminds me of that poor, case the professor had who was talking about.
Oh, right. Watch it wiggle, watch it jiggle, Jell-O brand gelatin.
Yeah, that song, yeah.
Right, exactly. And okay. So, Jell-O's been pretty successful up to this point.
Yeah.
They really haven't been confronted all that much in the way of competition.
Well, not really, because you think about it, their main competition's Royal, where I'm not sure where Royal's made from. And then you got all the off brands. You got
there's
Walmart.
The ever-present Knox.
Of course, Knox never gone. Well, of course, Knox has branched out into non-food things as well.
It's kind of its own thing, really. It's not really in competition with Jell-O.
I mean, if you're getting ballistic gelatin for like target practice or whatever, you more likely it's a brand. It's an offshoot of Knox gelatin because they also make a lot of medical grade stuff as well. So Knox, they still make the food stuff, but a lot of their stuff is also non-food related. And I think Jell-O, I don't think Jell-O weathered everything pretty good. There's times it kind of gets out of our psyche and people don't want it, and then there's times where it's back in the forefront. But
excellent.
Yeah. So I think that's all we got to say about Jell-O and the Leroy Museum of Jell-O, and then.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know if I have anything else to add.
I don't think so either. Except, it's Thanksgiving week this week while we're putting this one up. And if you have some Jell-O this Thanksgiving, good.
Right, exactly.
If you don't, okay. We're not having Jell-O.
Look it up and see whether or not you've got any... any ideas. Experiment with it. See what you can come up with. And let us know.
After Thanksgiving, why don't you try a turkey and stuffing aspect?
Try. You'll like it.
Cruel. Even I wouldn't be that cruel.
Well, I know. It's as if they thought, oh, gosh, it's such a versatile food. You could almost make anything out of it,
Pretty much, yeah.
And it's like, you put meat in it, and it's like...
Well, like I read real quick there, that was originally done to kind of preserve the meat. So, like, they had cheeses, and that was made to preserve. But then it became fashionable, like we described earlier, and then people started using it as a type of art form, really. I can't think of any of these that...
Right.
They look great, maybe... Some of them do, some don't. But do they really have any flavor? Any taste to them?
Well, flavor... Jeez. You're talking about plain Jell-O. It doesn't have any flavor at all.
Well,
really,
gelatin doesn't have any flavor, but Jell-O does, because Jell-O has all the fruit flavors. And they used to have the coffee flavor, which is no longer.
Well, I'm talking about gelatin by itself.
Yeah, it's no flavor. That's why you have to add the stuff. That's why Jell-O became so big, because they already added the fruit flavors to it.
You could add... it's like just a blank base.
Yeah.
Where you could basically, build anything onto it, almost. And it looks as if throughout history people tried.
Oh, yeah. And people are still trying.
Still trying to
like I said,
throw things together.
Those salads died out, in the 70s and early 80s, and now they're kind of coming back.
Yeah.
But, people are not going as crazy with them. Like, I joked and I said the turkey and stuffing one. I bet somewhere there is a recipe for a turkey and stuffing.
I'll bet there is.
Somewhere there is one.
With roast duck or something else. They get even more creative with the seafoods.
Yeah, I'll stick with the Jell-O shots and the jigglers. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, or something fruit.
Yeah.
It always goes better with for me, a dairy-based, fruit-based kind of, like the Bavarian style.
Well, I know Jell-O is a godsend to somebody who gets put on soft food, as many times as I've been put on soft food diets.
Absolutely.
It really is so nice to open the fridge and go, oh, Jell-O. Because it's soft food, but it's not. And so you got a different mouthfeel than you would with the mashed potatoes and the applesauce.
Right, exactly.
And you get a very nice respite from the mushy stuff because your mouth got to work a little hard. Mm-hmm. So somebody who's been on soft food diets due to surgeries and dental stuff, definitely. Jell-O has been a godsend. Yeah. It really has been. Okay? I mean, when I had my teeth pulled the last time, and he said, only cold soft food. Mm-hmm. Jell-O.
Jell-O, right. Or the puddings.
Jell-O, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I made a stuck with Jell-O that time, I think. Yeah, Jell-O and applesauce. Thank God it was only 24 hours.
Well, yeah, they needed extraction.
Yeah, that's enough of discussion of my health problems. Well, that's the end of our discussion with Jell-O as well. All right.
Thank you for listening to our Ghastly podcast.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you for listening to Unearthly Upstate. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, and on our webpage. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, Google Podcasts, and CastBox. Please like, share, and review on your favorite platform. Unearthly Upstate is an Animator Liar production. The show is produced by Mari and Matt Manette, with purring provided by Honey and Lloyd. Research and writing by Mari Manette. Music is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Unless otherwise stated in the episode, the places mentioned in the broadcast are not paid or contact us for any type of promotion. Please check out our webpage for credit and sources for the episode. Thank you.